From Lima, Peru, let's go now to Saudi Arabia and another former Saskatchewan resident dealing with a pandemic. There is a little taste of Canada in the desert. That Canuck moment is courtesy of Fahad Alanazi of Saudi Arabia. Alanazi lives in the eastern Saudi province of Hafr al-Baten, nearly 100 kilometers from Kuwait. Fahad spent 5 years in Regina, graduating last year with a degree in petroleum systems engineering. The Saudi government has aggressively battled the pandemic through the liberal use of tracing apps. But this pandemic got a lot more personal for Fahad, and he joins us from one of his favorite coffee shops to talk about it. Hi, Fahad. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Costa. Thank you for having me here.
So what's this pandemic been like for you as a former Regina resident living in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. It's kind of a whole new experience. But thankfully, right now, it's getting better and hope will go away soon.
You say things are getting better. What do you mean by that?
Well, there was a shutdown in the beginning of the pandemic, and the numbers were rising. Right now, we see it's decreasing, and the life is easiest. It's easier somehow by reopening stores and reopening the malls, and the life is kind of getting back to normal a little bit.
So, what personal impact did this COVID have on you, Fahad?
Well, it got very personal when I got infected with the virus. I was on a work trip after getting the permission to travel. We had a new project to handle in the northern side of Saudi. And on the way back, I was not feeling good. So I went to the clinic that was allocated for COVID-19, and I got the test. I got tested, and they told me to quarantine until the results are out. And then when the results were out, the Ministry of Health, they offered me a hotel to stay in order to quarantine for 2 weeks. But I didn't go there, and I preferred to stay home because I had my isolated room with bathroom. And I spent around 10 days before I got my second test to test negative.
Well, that's at least a big relief. But how did it make you feel when you were told you had tested positive for COVID?
Actually, it was kind of scary, but since I got better before getting the results, actually, the fever was much less, and because I lost my sense of smelling sense, it was kind of less harder than it should be when I first felt not good.
Well, what's the healthcare system there like in dealing during this pandemic in Saudi Arabia?
Actually, the Ministry of Health, they did a very good job dealing with this pandemic with the support of all authorities of the government by allocating some clinics that were only for by allocating some clinics that are specialized for the COVID-19 and some hospitals as well.
And what kind of way is it to trace people or keep track of people who have or may be suspected of having COVID? How's the country dealing with that?
Well, there are some apps. People here are using the technology in order to track down in order to overcome the pandemic. There are some apps that were designed by the Ministry of Health. One of them is to give permission during the curfew or during the shutdown. In order to leave your house, you need to get a permission by using this app. It's called Tawakkalna. And there is another two apps that were published later, like in the middle of the pandemic. One of them is called Tatamman, It tells you if somebody is infected around your area, or if you were in the presence of someone who was infected.
What do you know about this app that actually tracks? So you could be notified if you're in a mall if someone else is near you with the COVID. What have you heard about that?
Yes. Actually, I haven't experienced that yet, but I think it's kind of scary. But it tells you that somebody was present, so you could go give the test. Because there is clinics where you go give the test anytime if you feel like unsure, unsafe. So you go there and get the test, and then you quarantine until the results are out.
Now, Fahad, you spent years studying at the University of Regina, so you have a pretty good sense of how people in Saskatchewan and in Canada there is some resistance to these kind of tracing apps in Canada and certainly in the United States. What concerns do you have about maintaining some semblance of privacy in your world in Saudi Arabia?
I totally understand, but in this case, I don't mind it because it's used for a good reason. And in this case, it's used during the pandemic. When the pandemic is over, this app will be deleted and life is back to normal.
Let's maybe reflect on more normal times. What thoughts do you have about the time you spent in Regina at the University of Regina?
Well, it was a great experience for me staying 5 years at the University of Regina. I made lots of friends. I consider them as family while I was away from my original family.
And I'm sure they all here like to see you, and they see you well, and that's what counts. Fahad, thank you so much for telling us about life in Saudi Arabia during this pandemic.
Thank you very much, Costa, and I would like to say hi to everyone watching me in Regina and in Saskatchewan.
All right, thanks, bud. Take care.